Hello and thank you for joining us on Newsweek, where we highlight some of the biggest stories that made the headlines recently. I am Jacinta Agochukwu. This week, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu sends 28 names of ministerial nomination to the Senate for confirmation, as 11 states await second list amid intrigues, lobbying. And as well, this week, the federal government moves to stop labor unions from embarking on nationwide strike. And later on the show, Speaker Tajuddin Abbas allocates 80 committees to APC lawmakers, 54 to opposition parties. All the details in a moment. Stay with us. Well, thank you for staying with us. 2 days before the deadline for the submission of the ministerial nominees, as stipulated by the Constitution, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, read the list consisting of 28 nominees. Prominent names of people who made the list are the immediate past Governor of Rivers State, Nelson Wike, his counterparts from Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, Ebonyi State, David Umahi, and Jigawa State, Abubakar Badaru. The President, through his Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, promised to send 14 more nominees. Besides, 11 states are yet to have representatives in the list of ministers designate. The state expected to make up the supplementary list are Adamawa, Bayelsa, Gombe, Kano, Kebbi, Kogi, Lagos, Nasarawa, Osun, Yobe, and Zamfara states. Joining me to discuss this in the studio, I have via Zoom, I have Niyi Saliu, political analyst, and in the studio, I have Justice Ojeno, a lawyer.
My pleasure.
Welcome to the show, Mr. Justice. Mr. Niyi, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening.
All right. Let me get your thoughts on the 28 nominees submitted so far. Were there any surprises among them?
Well, before the submission, it was a list that was long awaited. And it was important to also beat the 2-month deadline, that was set by, the bill passed during the last days of President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, well, the president promised that it was going to be a mixture of politicians, technocrats, youths, and women. And he kept his word. From the list, we had about 7 women, and we said about 14 nominees to go. In my view, that was quite unprecedented. And we had youths too. We had politicians and technocrats. So it's a mix of all the key components of the society, which is good for any team. It's a mix of experience, highly competent people, seasoned administrators, and young people who are quite promising, and women who have distinguished themselves in the society. So I think it was a list that was carefully put together, and the nominees, of course, emerged from a lot of consultation, and a lot of things too came into the consideration, which clearly included their competence, their skill set, background, experience, and the rest. So it was expected of the president, and he didn't disappoint.
Right. You said the president didn't disappoint because it was expected of him. Now, the idea of 7 out of 28 nominees being women, and there's 14 remaining. Do you expect more women to be among the 14 remaining?
Okay, if it's as per the Constitution actually didn't stipulate that, okay, it should be this sex, it should be that sex. But of course, there are currently affirmative actions endorsed by the UN, and which the president too has touted that is going to do given the opportunity, which is at least 30% of cabinet should be reserved exclusively for women. I want to expect that the president will do it, but again, if he doesn't do it, it is his right not to. I say because as a people, we seem to be bifurcated. By bifurcation, I mean we ask for women, we ask for competence. We ask for, okay, this person must be from my neck of the woods, must be nominated from my state. We also ask for competence. So we have to, at some point, choose. So I feel that the president should, at the end of the day, if women are the most competent and they can constitute 70% of the cabinet, I think it is the way to go.
Interesting. As the new ministers prepare to take office the coming weeks, what would be your expectation for their performance?
Yes, I will expect that they will hit the ground running. A lot of them, they are quite seasoned, administrators, politicians, they've always been part of a lot of things in nation building. So it shouldn't be a problem, starting off. So I expect them to hit the ground running. I expect them to bring their experience to bear on the task that they'll be given. I am confident that the president will put round pegs in round hole. They are going to get responsibilities that they will be very, very skilled at and competent at. So it shouldn't be a problem, tapping from the springboard that the president has launched since he came into office and, deliver to Nigerians the expected dividends of democracy. So I do not have any doubt that this team is very good. I do not doubt their competence and skill set and the experience that I've gathered over the years through various responsibilities that they have done and done well. So I expect performance from day one.
All right, just like he said he expects performance from day one. What other means do you think these nominees can really come together to work with the president to ensure good governance?
Okay, for me, I think that there should be a workshop first to school them on the parameters of the agenda of the president, of the administration as a whole. And aside from the cabinet people being schooled, they should also be giving members of boards and parastatals that will not be in conflict with the ministers, because no matter how well-intentioned they are, if the people heading the boards and parastatals are maybe feeling that, okay, yes, I was brought here by the chairman of the party, I was brought here by the president, Mr. Minister, you cannot, or Mrs. Minister, you cannot give me instructions. Because we also have youths as members of the cabinet. Yeah, I'm 60 years old. I've been an official of this ministry before you were born. So you cannot even give me instructions on how to go. So those may really be issues. So round pegs in round holes, and they must be made to know that these people that are put to superintend over these ministries have the direct instructions and mandates and deliverables given to them by the president, and whatever support they can get. Civil servants too that are that are beneath them, with all due respect, should be reorientated about. Speaking
of orientation, you mentioned workshop. How possible is that to even start with? Because we don't see more of that. We don't see things like that to equip them, take up their performances.
Yes, a lot of that now has to be put in place. Seminars, workshops, and particular deliverables. We have societies, for example, the United Arab Emirates. It is said that their public service is more competent than their private sector. Can we sell the vision to our civil servants? They are not from the moon. They are not from the moon. They are also human beings. They are also Nigerians. They have good intentions to deliver a great society and great dividends of government to the people. So if we reorientate them, retrain them, the ones that are maybe not possible, because you have bad apples, you have bad eggs. If you cannot fix those ones, let them go and ensure that this thing is going to be working in the civil service is going to be driven by serious levels of professionalism. So with this in place, I think we'll do a lot better job as a government.
All right, I agree. Let's take a short break, gentlemen, and Newsweek continues in a moment. Stay with us. Well, thank you for staying with us. If you're just tuning in, it's Newsweek, where we highlight some of the biggest stories that made the headlines recently. Now, Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, is in the news once again. The union gave the federal government a 7-day ultimatum before it embarks on a nationwide strike over the hike in the price of petrol and the high cost of living in the country. However, in a statement, B.E. Jedi Agba, the permanent secretary at the Ministry of Justice, said the union is restrained by the order of the National Industrial Code from embarking on any strike regarding the removal of petrol subsidy. Jedi Agba advised the union to explore other means of negotiation with the federal government rather than resorting to self-help and undermining the orders of the court. As you have Nii and Justice with me. Mr. Nii, let me come to you. The union is demanding the immediate reversal of President Tinubu's policies. Do you believe this demand is achievable?
You see, the era of policy somersault and flip-flop governance is over, and the union should have gotten the memo. Nigeria is emerging from problems from 1960. Those are issues that we can't resolve in a day. Now, what we have had is that we have subsequent government that have tried to address the problems, flip over it, and manage it in a way that they just leave the problem unsolved, at least the root cause, and they run their government and they leave office. Now, we have a government that has decided to solve the problem from the root. Yes, it's going to come with some challenges, and those are the challenges we are seeing now. Then there will be, is like fighting corruption. It's going to fight back. There will be people that will also sabotage, the policies in a way that Nigerians won't see the positive side on time. So what the union should do, their duty now, is to support the government because they are in a vantage position to understand these policies, to see the benefits to the people, and they are also very well positioned to also, lead the campaign to assure the people that there is light at the end of the tunnel. That is what I think their responsibilities are, and they need to understand that. Now, they are also, I heard from one of their releases that the court did not restrain them from issuing notices of a strike. That what the court has said is that they shouldn't embark on strike. I want to believe that's where we are. This is not the time for strike or any action. This is the time. It's too young. It's too early in the day to begin to frustrate some of these policies. No one in Nigeria can argue the fact that we do, a removal of subsidy has not been long overdue. No one in Nigeria can say that we didn't need to unify currencies. No one. The regime that we have had, during the past administrations have not done any good to our economy. So we need to resolve the issues, and it will come with his challenges. So the union should use their position to work with government, assure Nigerians that we are going to come out of this a better nation, and stop, creating situations of uncertainty. And that's what the position is. The union should listen to the voice of reason and cooperate with this government. It's too early in the day to begin to do anything inimical to nation building and growth.
All right, Justice, I saw you giggling when he mentioned that the union is saying the court has not restrained them and all of that. They even said it's illegal. Let me have your thought. Do you think we can afford a strike now?
For me, I think that what the union did was they brought up a hair-splitting argument by saying that, okay, the court did not prevent them from going on protests. That what the court prevented them from going on was on strike. That they still have a right to protest. That what they are calling on is for everybody, not just even the workers, to come with them on a protest. I think that's the major hair-splitting argument that they are raising. But that aside, I feel that there should be serious engagement between the government and labor. Labor has its advantages because at the end of the day, it is possible that the government is going on a full blast of, okay, we want to implement this policy, we want to implement this policy. There should be breaks, there should be a check, there should be institutions capable and able to slow them down a bit and say, can we look at the other side of this coin? And I think that that's a role that Labour should play. We know that another institution that plays that is the legislature. But we must always remember that they shouldn't be bitter fighters, they shouldn't be rivals, they shouldn't always be at the neck of each other. They should be partners in progress. That's actually what I think that Labour should be in this kind of scenario. So whatever it is they are fighting over, which is appropriate, which is what we want as a people, they must always come back to the table in good time, not too long a time and not too crazy demands. We must be realistic and bring the terms to the table and say, okay, what can work, what can work? Oh yeah, government, we know you have all these awesome powers. Can you please reconsider this, because they are the talakawas, if I may use vernacular, that will be adversely affected if you decide to maybe make Nigeria El Dorado in one day. Some people may be crushed beyond recognition. Some people may die in the process. So please, can you slow down and let us make this progress in a more measured manner? You know,
you've mentioned how this can be balanced, but you hear NLC, you know, putting out here facts, what they believe, they're standing for the people. The federal government is saying, give me some time and all of that. The idea is, how do we have this resolved amicably? What is this thing that the federal government and the NLC should really, how would they come at a conclusion, you know? Because if you say, let's wait, how long is Nigeria going to wait? How long? Is there a time?
That's a major challenge. That's what now happens when two people that are, or two institutions that have their own visions and deliverables. That's what happens when they clash. The government wants to make Nigeria very, very El Dorado in one day, if they may. The unions don't want any of their members to suffer for one day, if they may. There has to be a balancing. There has to be a balancing, and it's a delicate balancing act. It's technically like these people who do games. They are walking on a wire with a very, very high wire with a pole, trying not to fall. If you swerve here, you fall. If you swerve here, you fall. So that's why both of them must always come back, always be expert negotiators, always be skilled at compromise. None should hold on to their positions too fastidiously, because if two elephants fight, like we always say, it is the grass that will suffer.
All right, let's move to our final story for tonight. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has announced the names of chairman and deputy chairman of the 134 standing committees for the third house. 80 of those were allocated to the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, while 54 standing committee went to the 7 opposition parties. Still with me to discuss this is Ni Saliu and Justice. Ni, let me come to you. Do you think the outcome is favorable and is satisfactory for all parties involved?
I think that what the Speaker has done is quite magnanimous. I've followed the politics of the House for a while. It hasn't been this way, particularly when the opposition PDP were, in control of the House. So the number of seats allocated to the opposition is quite much, and it shows that the Speaker is pursuing peace, is pursuing cooperation, is also pursuing integration, of the House. And my advice would be that the opposition should reciprocate the good gesture and work with the majority to, support the executive so we can move this nation forward. So I hope all of them can now settle down and begin their oversight function in earnest. And with their cooperation, I'm sure the executive led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would achieve a lot. Right now, I think they've started on a very good note, and I hope they continue.
All right, Neil, let's also talk about the interest of the people. Now, with the significant lobbying for influential committee positions, do you think the interests of the people will be prioritized over personal interests?
You see, I don't know. Lobby for influential position. There is no influential. Look, every position is important because they all border on the well-being of Nigerians. So the so-called influential position, they still need oversight. If you are there, the idea is not supposed to unduly, give yourself advantage or create an opportunity, personal opportunity or personal situation, personal aggrandizement for yourself. It is to serve Nigeria. If everyone sees, every position they occupy or the responsibility they have been called to as service, we are not going to even begin to see the difference between who is the chairman House Committee on Petroleum and the chairman House Committee on schools, on education, for instance. It will look like the same job because their job is oversight. Whether you are in petroleum, whether you are in house services, whether you are in energy, there is no difference. Just go there, work in a way that Nigerians will derive the benefit of all the effort that everybody has put together to put them in office. So I think that the members of parliament should stop the idea or the notion of differentiating certain, committees from the other, or distinguishing committees based on, the advantage that those committees, that can be derived from those committees, and see every committee that they have been appointed to serving as an opportunity to serve the people and also provide oversight functions. When they see, those two are the operating word, oversight and service. If they see their responsibilities as such, there is not going to be any issue of this differentiating which one is a plum job and which one is not.
All right, Need, let me come to you. I'll ask you the same question because whether you like it or not is in the interest of people that matter here. You see the speaker, the analysis there is that he had to go to people that really voted him there. So how do you think these lawmakers will work together to ensure it's not their personal interest, but rather that of the people?
Okay, that's our ultimate aim and prayer, that it's not their personal interest. So I feel that there is a lot of lobbying that goes into whatever seat you eventually have to chair. Because in this particular legislature, in this house, the number of committees were high. And if one party takes 80, another party takes 54, that's about 134. So it looks like they are just looking for a way for people to chair, to have a committee to chair, which is not bad. I also, just like Mr. Nee said, salute especially the speaker for the fact that he can balance it that much, because usually it is a zero-sum game. It's usually one party takes it all. But again, we saw the way he was elected, it was almost unanimous. So it shows that both parties came together to put him on the seat, and he has paid them back. I also see the way that plum jobs were actually distributed to. They lobbied for it, because when I saw the position that Iwase, the former deputy speaker, got, he's to chair federal character. It's almost like it's being punished for contesting in the election. But again, it's not new to Nigeria. In America too, anybody, if you dare contest against who is nominated, maybe by the powers that be, you lose. They usually say that they are going to banish you to go and head the frying fish committee. They know that that's not it. But all that said, we should ensure that we watch. It's not we say democracy dies in darkness. Most of the things that they are going to be doing as legislators is to shed light, just like he said, Mr. Nee said, the oversight function of the legislature. Their major job is to shed light on whatever it is that the executive is doing. That is their second major. The major primary is to actually make laws for the good peace, goodness, and orderliness of of the Nigerian society. We should watch them just like they are watching the executive in order to ensure that we have a better society.
All right, Nii, like Justice is saying, I want to have your take on how you will propose that the lawmakers collaborate with the executive to ensure effective governance. Just less than 1 minute, we are almost out of time.
By simply doing their job. When they do their job as mandated by the Constitution, that is the best way to collaborate with the executive. You got to do your job. If you do your job, you are collaborating with the executive. It is when you don't do your job and you are seeking pecuniary benefit, that is when you work, against public interest. And when you work against public interest, you are not supporting the executive. Because the executive is supposed and is expected to champion the cause of the people. So to work with them, do your job that you have been elected to do as prescribed for you by the Constitution. When you do that, you are collaborating with the executive. It's as simple as that. It is not, they are not an appendage of the executive. Their job has been cut out for them by the Constitution. Let them just do it. Once they do it, that is the best cooperation that the executive can get. They are supposed to be checked to the executive. Collaborate with them where they're supposed to collaborate. Check them where they're supposed to check them.
All right, gentlemen, it's been a beautiful conversation so far, and I want to thank the both of you. I've been speaking with Nii Saliu, political analyst, and Justice Ojene, a lawyer. Thank you,
Pleasure.
Mr. Nii. Thank you, Justice.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you for having me. Cheers.
All right, and as well, thank you for being part of the show. Remember, you can follow the conversation on our social media platforms at TVC News NG on our website at tvcnews.tv. I am Jacinta Agochukwu. Until next week, it's goodbye.